Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel for another video on Marvel Contest of Champions. This one is focused on a champion of Moon Knight. Yes, Moon Knight. Oh yes, and a shit the name, we're indeed going to be talking about Moon Knight. We're going to talk about his abilities, we're going to talk about his viability in the game in the current state, and also we're going to do a little bit of comic book history, which starts around about now. Moon Knight's real name is Mark Spector. He was born in the US. He's the son of a rabbi who as a child had managed to escape Nazi prosecution after Hitler invaded Czechoslovakia. Mark grew up on the poor side of Chicago, where his father, Elias, was the target of discrimination. Mark couldn't understand why his father would never fight back against persecution. Mark had a very troubled childhood, and in fact, his fighting instinct manifested when he learnt that Rabbi Yitz Perman, who was a family friend, was in fact a Nazi deserter and a secret killer of Jews. That particular event caused Mark to develop dissociative identity disorder, and he was admitted to a psychiatric hospital. Now this is the point when things twist, and he is then contacted by an Egyptian deity called Noshu. Also, it seems that his adult life is troubled. He joined the Marines, and then it was a case he was dishonorably discharged based on his past mental health. He later joined the CIA, and during that time period he met with a few people that would later become associates in the future in his Moon Knight days, but there was one thing going on that was really bad. His brother Randall Spector was involved with a gun running scheme, and at the same time his girlfriend Lisa stumbled upon this and Randall killed her with a hatchet. It's fair to say Mark has not had the best of life so far and decided to take a job in Egypt with Raoul Bushman. Bushman is a bit of an evil person who likes nothing better than plundering and killing, in particular killing the archaeologist Peter Alroon, who is working towards finding a pharaoh's tomb. In the process of killing off Alroon, he tries to go for the daughter. Mark steps in and is fatally wounded. Marlene, Alroon's daughter, manages to take Mark to the tomb and lay him as he dies in front of the idol of Noshu. It's at this point that Noshu then says, "We can exchange your life, but you have to work for us." Mark is then restored back to life and exacts revenge. It's later found out this could be more of a hallucination, especially based on some of the old mental health that we've discussed earlier. So now with his newfound powers, he decides to go back to New York to try and do good by his powers. It is said that when the moon hits its earliest point, that he does become stronger, and the fuller the moon, the stronger he will become. Moon Knight has been in so many different comic book story arcs, and I really would like to see the character come to the big screen at some later date. In particular, his run in the West Coast Avengers is very eventful, teaming up with Hawkeye and other characters. If you'd like to learn more about the character, I've put some links in the description below. Back to Rich and the game. The only real improvements to the synergies for Moon Knight have been with Darkhawk as well as Night Thrasher, and finally we've got something with Taskmaster, all of which have different beneficial effects, which we'll talk about shortly. Okay, let's talk about Moon Knight's abilities and kind of lack thereof. It's very difficult to kind of explain the situation with this character and how it works with different types of moon modes, and also the synodic tide and how that works as well. The biggest problem with this stuff, especially with the signature ability, is the time. Like, it's 6 hours, like cycles to 6 hours on the signature ability, which you think, well, that's just weird. I don't know if there's any other champion that kind of works like this. Now, it's great comic book lore and it's great origin, and it's great touching on the authenticity. Love that. But the problem is when you look at some of the abilities, like the powers, the champion was able to latch on to powers from Noshu, which could be up to about a ton's worth of damage, strength even, and even up to like 4 tons of kind of like metric force. So you kind of go like, well, is this represented by this character? And I just don't think it is. But again, no kind of disrespect to Kabam, because I suspect at some point this will be one of those characters that will be looked at to be brought into the current scheme or the current meta of the game. As well, saying that maybe between all those positive effects that the champion gets from him being in different types of moon modes, that you can dash back, hold down the block, and switch between different modes in order to either power lock or power steal. Maybe if it's a case of like damage outputting a huge amount with, say, Fury. Say the champion gets X amount of Fury buffs and is able to then put in a lot more pain. Moon Knight falls into like a Z-list celebrity in MCOC in that, yeah, there are some positives, but it's just generally a case that you just want a bit more. As the game in the last year has been about how much damage a champion can do. Playing about with even with the rank 4 version, and I wasn't really enjoying it. I started quite well against Winter Soldier in a little battle, and I was just thinking to myself, this is boring. I think I was like 100 hits in, and I'd barely done any damage whatsoever. I think I haven't even shaved off about 10% of damage in that time. And it does then make you kind of feel that, right, well, is it anything notable going for the character? There's nothing off the L3, that's completely blank. Also, the L2 is all about increasing the duration of bleeds, which, you know, isn't amazing. Skill domination could be good and viable to kind of bounce off of this if you're thinking about the synergy use, so you can increase the damage of your bleed attacks. But, you know, I'm just splitting hairs. We're trying to find something of popularity and also decentness to kind of bring this character into the current state. And even with the SP1, where it's like additional critical rating, there's just like I said, very little going for the character. Unfortunately, there are some aspects of positive that we can latch onto that Kabam could change. Still very confusing about the way that you deal with what's going on in the sky with the lunar activity at times of the evening, and as well, like, it would be so much easier to then switch between different modes if you were then forcing the hand with dashing back, hitting down a block, and then switching between different modes. Either way, I would like to see more from this character in the future. But do you need to feel discouraged that you've got the character and nothing to use it with? I would say it's still fine for using in arena, that's the first thing. And also, if it's your lead character, then you'll be able to get through some difficult content at your level, maybe at beginner level, maybe some monthly questing. He's definitely there and viable and fun. It's just the case that you want something that damage outputs a huge amount more. At this point, we put our focus onto the synergies. And as I said before, there are some new synergies that have been put in order to improve things, but I just don't think that we've definitely got to that point where these synergies are making him more powerful. Darkhawk incorporates max power improvements as well as health improvements. So I guess that's some positive, but that's all about being in some sort of moon-based mode. Night Thrasher improves the bleed effects, so that's something that's quite helpful. So yeah, that can be quite good, especially going with the L2, that could increase that. And Taskmaster Synergy allows improvements to the triggering of the moon phase abilities. So yeah, still nothing really to say this is going to be a brilliant champion, or maybe stacking up things with Fury, or maybe something to do with switching modes. It is very much a case that it doesn't add too much depth to this character. These synergies don't really add much to the damage output of the character. It does somewhat help, but not as much to say that I want to utilize this character as a main character, or a character that I want to take off against uncollected content. Also, the abilities, when they're launched at the moment, I've got Waxing Moon up, and this is the second time I've done the kind of gameplay in order to try and find out, like, are things pinging up? And it's like, I see the critical rating kind of improvement, so we've got the precision coming in, but I never see the fury, and that's the thing that kind of gets my goat a little bit, that where you just don't see that. So just if these things could be like up and stacking, like quick, there, the similar kind of fashion to what we've got with Gamora, even with She-Hulk, where we're able to ping them up and also have a way of keeping them up there. It just means that the champions are a little bit more viable, in particular, obviously, Moon Knight, who I'd love to see be more of a viable character. One that I really enjoy. I'm a big fan of Egypt history, and ancient Egypt history to be exact, and I just think that it would be great to see something that just kind of latches on and kind of, you know, it's a lot more stronger with this character, just so you could damage output a bit more. But in any case, what are your thoughts on Moon Knight? Do you like the character? Do you not like the character? Do you think that he should definitely get a buff? What are your thoughts? Put them in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into a character like Moon Knight and like to see more like this, then give it a like on the video. Also subscribe for more Marvel Contest of Champions based content. And make sure to catch me in a live stream most days from 1900 hours GMT, or at the weekends, 1600 hours GMT. And yeah, hopefully I shall see you there. But thanks very much for watching, and I shall catch you in the next one. Bye bye for now.